For 6 years of my life, I raced across the world, living the life of a professional cyclist. From Germany to Great Britain, Australia to South Korea, I was lucky enough to race my bike in some of the incredible locations, but what did I really think of it? My whole time as a pro cyclist was spent at the continental level, which is the third tier of pro cycling. It's a level where you generally pick a team, if you have that luxury, with a good race calendar where you can show yourself against the Pro Conti and World Tour pros. It's all about chasing the opportunity to prove yourself, because you never know what one race result can do to change the trajectory of your career. But because we're at this third tier, we don't quite have the resources or the salaries of those racing in the top league. You know, the most I was making as a UK pro was between 8 to 12K per year. If you're doing it for the cash, you're in the wrong game. That being said, I wouldn't change it for the world, and a lot of the person that I am today is thanks to bike racing. I lean on this experience every day, building spokes. Pro cycling can look shiny on the outside, but when you really dig into it, it's well noted that pro cycling is far from the glitz and glamour. Countless hours in the airports, time spent suffering alone while training and having to sacrifice this normal life are just some of the things that are the norm. And you can never really turn off as a pro cyclist either. Unlike other jobs where you get the weekend or evenings to switch off, being a pro cyclist isn't a job but a life choice. You can always be doing something extra to be more professional. Whether that's an extra 10 minutes stretching or a little less time on your feet. In this video, I'm going to take you through 5 things I wish I knew before I turned pro. Number 1, travel can start to wear on you. The sort of travel that you do as a pro cyclist isn't one where you can take in the scenery of the place. In fact, you often don't even know where you are, especially on a stage race. I've seen guys take bets at the dinner table as to what the closest big city is or what country we're closest to. As a bike racer, your travel goes something like this. You get picked up by the team, you drive straight to the race hotel, you do a pre-race ride and maybe stop for a coffee, have dinner back at the hotel, drive to the race, complete the race, get changed, and then drive straight to the next hotel or home. Across 6 years of racing, I can count on both hands how many times I've had dinner outside the race hotel or been allowed to explore the city. When you're racing, it's very much a work trip. 2, the uncertainty of your race calendar. Racing at a continental level, it's rare that you'll know your race program more than a couple of months in advance, and even then, it can change at the drop of a hat. In fact, until you've become one of the biggest names in the sport, a team will make you jump on a plane with a day's notice to go to a race. While this keeps you on your toes, it means it can be difficult to map training around your racing. You need to be flexible and are always balancing whether you should be peaking or just maintaining 95% fitness the whole time, just so you can be ready to go whenever. From a mental perspective, I really struggle with this. I'm a person who likes to plan ahead and build towards something. Perhaps reflecting back, I may not have reached the top ranks by not being flexible and strong enough mentally. 3, free bikes and equipment sounds good, but you might not always like it. One of the major pros of being a pro is that you get free equipment. It's brilliant. Each year you have a shiny new bike and a suitcase full of freshly packed kit ready to go. It's always like a second Christmas. However, it may not always be the equipment you want to use and you can't do nothing about it. Now, I don't know if I need to give myself a slap here. For example, I always like to race on Continental tires as I trusted them. When I moved to another brand, they immediately felt less grippy, I was less confident, and I had a couple of crashes and near misses. Maybe this was all in my head, but it's significant. Then you need to remind yourself, if Sagan can descend like this, and he's going so much quicker than what I was, should it really matter what I'm riding? Overall, you just need to accept that you'll get some good sponsored items, some bad sponsored items, and you just hope overall you end up with a greater percentage of good. 4. Enjoy every moment. The career of a pro cyclist is short. For the best in the world, it can be 20 years, but for most it's anywhere between 5 and 15 years, a tiny percentage of your life. In those years, you will experience so many things and create so many great memories. When in the moment, it can be easy to ignore them or even push them away as you're just trying to focus on the next race. But that's the worst thing you can do. Living in the moment is one of the hardest things you can do as an athlete, but being able to do that and enjoy what you do is invaluable. For me, this moment is not getting too caught up in the future races and thinking, I'll feel validated if I just do X, Y, and Z. Making the most of every experience, whether positive or negative, is something that took me a long time to realize, but I was better off once I did. 5. Sacrifice you need to make. Do not underestimate the amount of sacrifice that it takes to be a professional or even striving professional athlete. When you're in the bubble of pro cycling world, it feels completely normal. But once you step out, I realize it's anything but. There are sacrifices that everyone talks about, such as missing parties, weddings, or birthdays, as you're away racing or need to be in bed early because you're training the next day. It's not until you leave the pro world that you realize you missed a whole part of your life that it seems everyone else has lived. Now, I'm not saying I would do this differently because I think I'm wired to enjoy the suffering side of things. And I feel now I have an edge per se that I can apply to the real world. I have a story to share that is not necessarily the norm. My sacrifice still even continues built and spoked, as we're a small team taking on this big task. And in some ways, I feel like I am back in the Conti ranks trying to break through. But this time, I've learned it's important to have those downtimes. Spoked is going to be there tomorrow, and being able to take a step back reduces the chances of burnout. There are things that I'd go back and do differently if I had my time again, but equally I don't hold any regrets. Bike racing allowed me so many incredible experiences, which most will never witness. If you're going through the pro cycling world, or even as an everyday rider, sacrificing family time and work just to achieve a cycling goal, and happen to be watching this video, just stop for a second and reflect where you've come from and where you are now. Don't take anything for granted. Trust me, this moment will be over before you know it. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to drop us a like. It really does mean a lot to me. And if you want to see more content about training and experience of an ex-pro cyclist, then hit the subscribe button. It's completely free after all.